Good evening,
Good evening.
everyone. Oh, we got to turn a little bit here. So I
Oh,
can scoot you over here a little bit more. There
there
we
we
go.
go.
Oh, too far.
I can scoot a little bit more.
Listen, it's not a
Okay.
2 days together unless we have a technical difficulty to start the night off with. So
Always.
we started off my battery or my microphone is dead. So we'll see if this one stays live. If y'all stop being able to hear me, let me know. So,
We are on. So,
all right. Well, welcome to Tuesdays Together. We're glad you all got to join us tonight.
oh, that was awesome.
Sorry if we have groceries being delivered while we're on the air. We're hearing the doorbell go off. But we're glad you're all joined us tonight. And Jenny's jumping in. You said we're live, so we're
Yep.
good there. Uh, Pastor Jenny said
So
last week she was very excited about this week because we can stop talking about our anxieties and start talking about whose?
people in the Bible.
People in the Bible. Because,
Yes.
it's not wrong to talk about people in the Bible. Well, there's a whole nother, philosophical question there for you. If we gossip about people in the Bible, do you consider gossiping?
I don't. I don't really think we're gossiping though. We're learning from them, right?
It's true, we're learning
We're
from them,
learning.
but we're talking about
We're.
them. I mean,
Yeah.
we're not bettering them. I mean, I don't know, maybe
I don't know.
by the end, we're going to make sure the Bible characters get credence as to how their terrible times made lives better. So there you go, Pastor Tony. When Pastor Tony joins us, we need Pastor Tony to tell us if we
Is
are
it
talking about
gossiping?
somebody else and we're learning a lesson, and by the end of it, we're telling them how they got closer to God. Is that considered a teaching, or is that considered gossiping? There we go.
I feel like it would be a teachable moment.
Okay,
Like,
there we go.
we're not, I mean, like, we're not rubbing elbows with them or anything. So,
Okay.
like, I don't know. I don't really know.
Because we could talk about a lot
Um,
of teachable moments with people at our church. I'm just saying.
yeah.
Maybe
We
one
don't have a lot of
day.
teachable moments in our family.
Yeah, that's true.
Like,
Maybe one day we will become a teachable moment for somebody. And so.
Sammy is on. Thanks for tuning in, Sammy.
And he's glad you're feeling better.
Yes, I am feeling a lot better. I am feeling human again, and feel like I'm back into the land of the living because that was a rough bug. Did not feel like I was.
She called Uncle Ralph, but he never came over. A lot. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I felt like I was headed to the other side. It was pretty bad for a little bit there.
It was not pretty for a couple of days.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if you tune in with us, please say hey, do a wave, an emoji, whatever you want.
Thumbs up,
Thumbs
smiley
up,
face,
so we know
shed a
that
tear.
you're here.
You're so happy to see us. We're just going to see you coming across. Oh, I see Elaine's joining us. She got popped in.
Or they're sad that we're
Or they're sad we're
on.
online. We hope you're not sad that we're online. We hope that you're
That was-
so happy to see us. You're shedding a tear. So we're going to need the smiley face with a little tear so we know you're happy to see us. So happy to
Yes.
see us. There we go.
And I don't know why they keep disappearing. Like, I keep having to do this because they keep. I don't want them
Just
to.
swipe over.
I don't know. I
Oh,
think
because
they're
the
going to
one's
disappear
watching
again.
just disappears, but we'll see.
I don't know. Sammy said we're being taught, so there you go. We're not
There we go.
gossiping.
Okay, sounds good.
Not gossiping. So, thank you for joining us. I'm just going to kind of
Go for it. Roll it.
restart our little thing here. We always have like a couple minutes that we trying to give everybody a moment to log in if you're going to log in to watch us live. So we are talking tonight. We are continuing our study, Peace for the Anxious Heart. And if you have not joined us in the last few weeks, I think, what is this week? This week 6? Week 5? Week 6? I don't know what this week is. We've been doing it for a little bit now. So if you haven't been joining us, this is a portion of a study from Daily Grace Co. It looks like this. It's Peace for the Anxious Heart. That whole screen just went like crazy when I did that. This is okay. Week 6. Thank you, Sammy. I can't even keep track. Of course, Friday was like gone to me. I don't even remember Friday, so I don't think it even happened. But anyway, we've been following this along. We are in the next. We're following. It goes by week. We're going. It goes by weeks at a time.
We're doing it like God.
I don't even know what I'm trying to say.
A week. Oh,
yeah, it's like
study plan.
5 days in a week, so it's like a 4-week study, but we're doing 1 day a week. Is what I'm trying to say. There we go.
It's gonna go a little bit longer. What you said.
So it's going a little longer.
Thanks, Tammy, for joining us. So Tammy's joining us. Jay's joining us.
Got quite a few
awesome.
on. So tonight we've been kind of going through just kind of like anxiety, different types of anxieties, different ways we look at anxiety. And now the next 10 weeks, we're actually going to be going through a person from the Bible every week and a different anxiety that they dealt with in the Bible, what they dealt with, how they dealt with it, and some
how
solutions
we can learn from it, so
on how we can learn from it. Yes. Gossiping. Okay. So anyway, if you'd like to follow along, I usually put the link in, I was about to say the show. I've listened to so many podcasts. I was about to say the show notes. I mean, I guess it is kind of the show notes. And you can follow along with us that way too. We pretty much cover most everything that's in the lesson or devotional for this week, and then we will add to. So we always like to start. I always like to start with not a random factoid, but a random question. So get your typing hands ready, and I'm gonna have to. Oh, well, you have right there. So today's random question is, what's the most random thing in your purse or wallet? So if you're a lady, a purse, obviously. If you're a guy, a wallet. What is the most random thing?
So I've got one of those nice slimline wallets that Abigail got me. That's got like a little fancy flip cover on it on my cards. Ready? Yeah, all my cards pop up. But I had to look for a second to see what my most random thing was, and I've got like an extra key from my office stuck inside my wallet. So that's probably my most random thing. There. I have an extra key in my office.
I don't have my purse in here. My most random thing would probably, I know what's in my purse though. My hair is like not jiving with the screen. Sorry, ADD there going on.
Welcome to Dual Family.
My most random thing in my purse is probably a fidget toy, because I have so many random things in there from the children, because I half the time carry all of their stuff as well.
So my wallet is a fidget toy. Look, see?
Yeah,
it is a fidget toy.
I do. I currently have one of those little fidgets that looks like a game controller in there right now, because Hallie likes that. And
is it really for Hallie though?
I don't know. I mean, like sometimes I pull it out too, but it's random though. I mean, it's kind of odd for me to have that in there.
Library card.
Library card.
So, Sammy, next question. When was the last time you went to the library? Because I'm pretty sure I have a library card in my vault, because I keep all my old stuff in the vault.
I think they voided mine because I haven't been in so long. I think I have to get a new one.
Yeah, fees you got to pay before you can get your new library card back.
Probably do. Probably.
Jenny filed bankruptcy at the library. Is that a thing?
Fun
library
fact.
Bankruptcy?
You scared me half to death. Remember that? Like back like a long time ago when
Did I cause you anxiety?
Yes, you caused me anxiety. He caused me anxiety. Sammy said many years. So we had some books that the girls and I had gotten like one summer at the library, and then like they lost some of them. I don't remember exactly what happened. Children losing books, like, and I was so like, I was like, man, I'm gonna have all these fines to pay. And he like had me freaked out that when I went to go pay them, they were gonna like arrest me. He was like, I'm pretty sure you can get arrested for like having really high fines. And I was like, what? And I was like so freaked out. And then the librarian was like, because I was like, is everything okay? Like, am I clear? Like, can I pay these? And she was like, yeah, like looking at me like I was crazy. And I told her what you had said, and she was like, she got the biggest laugh out of it. She's like, oh no. She's like, we'd have a lot of people in jail if we did that.
I'm not even sure if I've ever heard that story before, to be honest. So that's awesome.
I think it's like one of those things you flushed in and flushed out. Like you weren't I was concerned about it. I was scared to death to go to the
Dad
library.
jokes. Dad jokes fly in, fly out. There you go.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So, anyway. All right.
All right.
So, if you just tuned in, you can put in the comments what's the most random thing in your purse or wallet. Just random thing. Mine was a fidget. His is your work
Key.
key. So, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to dig in to this week's. We are in Moses. We're going to be talking about Moses tonight. And Moses' anxiety over inadequacy, which is like, I feel like a biggie for so many people. Like, that anxiety gets pretty much everybody at some point. We all feel inadequate at some point.
Especially if you feel a calling in your life to a ministry or to a leadership position, whatever it is.
Yeah. So the main scriptures, I don't know if you want to type those into the thing there so they can see them. So the main scriptures this week are Exodus 4:10-13 and 1 Corinthians 2:1-5. And we're going to look at both of those tonight, and we're going to have some other ones kind of intermingled. And just like I did last week, I will post them in our online campus afterward for everybody to be able to refer back to all the ones in case you don't have the book to follow along, so that you can go back for further study on this week. So anxiety can cause us to overthink and obsess over our performance with thoughts like, what if I fail? What if I look stupid? I think that one a lot. What if I look stupid? That one, I'm always like, man, I'm going to look really dumb doing this. But those thoughts...
You're a kids pastor, though, so that's okay.
Yeah, you know.
You're supposed to look a little goofy. The kids don't like you unless you look goofy.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know.
And then if someone makes fun of you, you say, I was doing it for the kids. I wasn't doing it for you, okay? I was doing it for the kids and Jesus.
So these thoughts, no matter, those thoughts, what if I look stupid? What if I fail at it? They can lead us to believe that we're unqualified and unfit for a task or role before us, which tempts us to then give up completely on whatever that task at hand may be. Or maybe, like you were talking about a minute ago, maybe you have a calling into ministry, or maybe you have a career path that you're looking at, or, there's something that you feel like you are supposed to step out into. And then those thoughts lead you to go, you know what, I'm not even going to do this.
Yeah.
Just going to back off completely because I'm not there. I'm not qualified for it. And so Moses had this same situation. So we see we're going to read in just a second, Exodus 4:10-13. We'll see here where Moses he's in that point where God's asking him to do something really big. And he's like, what if I fail? What if I look stupid? What if I can't do this? What if I sound wrong? So if you want to read that.
Yep. Exodus 4, starting verse 10. Moses said to the Lord, pardon your servant, Lord. I have never been eloquent, neither in the past nor since you have spoken to your servant. I'm slow of speech and tongue. The Lord said to him, who gave human beings their mouths? Who makes them deaf or mute? Who gives them sight or makes them blind? Is it not I, the Lord? Now go, I will help you speak and teach you what to say. But Moses said, pardon your servant, Lord. Please send someone else.
Yeah, so he was immediately like, okay, nope, not going to do it. Send somebody else, God. Like,
I feel inadequate.
Yeah, I feel inadequate. So God called Moses to lead the Israelites, and Moses was uneasy about it. God laid out his plans before Moses, telling Moses how he was going to use him to save the Israelites. Yet Moses' reaction was far from enthusiastic. He was far from accepting. And instead of receiving God's plan for him, he rejected it, and multiple times, not just once. Multiple times he rejected it. He questioned God's purposes with questions like in 3:11, who am I to go In 3:13, he said, "What do I say?" And in 4:1, he said, "What if?" So we may find ourselves asking these same questions when God calls us to do something. Like, why choose me? Like, why do you want me to do this? And when we start having those negative thoughts come in of our inadequate abilities, we're going to immediately reject what God is asking us to do because we don't feel like we can do it. So, that's when we start questioning, like, why are you choosing me? What if they reject me? Or what if I make a mess of this? And so Moses' main fear was over his speaking abilities, because he said in what we just read, he tells God that he has never been an eloquent speaker. So maybe Moses had a stutter, stumbled over his words, maybe he lacked a strong speaking voice. Like, I've read multiple like commentary type things, or I guess what you would want to call them, where they've talked about that it's believed that like Moses had like a stutter, like, and that which will make you feel like, wow, okay, I have this disability. Why are you choosing me to do this?
No, and be honest, I mean, if he wasn't confident in what he was saying,
Yeah.
he completely trust in the Lord, yeah, it caused you to stutter anyway.
Yeah.
You think about it, like, he was studied up. And I mean, give it to Moses. He wasn't exactly going in with like a full head of knowledge as to what he's getting ready to go do. He was, I mean, he didn't, wasn't like God gave him a book in advance to go and say, this is what you're going to say, go read 1 Corinthians 13. Like, tell him all about my love. Like, he was going in, God just said, go and let my people go. Like, set my people free. And not going to lie, I mean, again, he wasn't just going to preach. He was going in knowing that he was going before Pharaoh and saying, hey, I'm getting ready to take all your workforce. So,
this is a big deal. Like, it's not like a little, it was hey, like, go preach this sermon.
Go die in front of Pharaoh.
Yeah. It's like, no, you're going to literally be up against huge thing here.
Which, again, God didn't need Moses' thoughts on the matter. He just needed his faith that he was going to do what he was told to do.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I want to go into the conversation. I don't know if you were getting about qualified versus called. Is that later on in the conversation, or is that?
Oh, no, we can jump to that.
Okay. Yeah. Because Jane and I were talking about that, like how often we tell people that are going into ministry, or people just in general talking about ministry areas, like how God doesn't call the qualified. He qualifies the called. Like, if God calls you to do something, he's going to give you what you need.
Yeah.
In Moses' situation, he gave him a staff out of a snake to remind him what God had done for him, and he also gave him Aaron to speak for him. But that doesn't always work with everybody else. Like, chances are, if you're called to ministry, God's not going to say, hey, I'm sending this person to you to be your speaker if he's calling you to speak. But then again, if he's calling you to go somewhere, he may bring you a helpmate, whether that's in a spouse or in a friend or in someone to come along with you. I mean, he's going to qualify you and give you what you need, the qualifications you need to do whatever that is.
Yeah.
Whether that's a secular job, ministry job, or a traveling abroad, or a job abroad, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So.
And that's what happens in what we were in Exodus. You see where God responds back to Moses, and he's telling him, you know, like, did I not create your mouth? Like, who created your mouth? You know, like, who crafted it purposefully? Like, I knew what I was planning to do with you before I ever even created you completely.
Your ears. I didn't want you to have those things. I want to give them to you.
Yeah. Yeah. And so when we go forward and we look at, so in this situation, Moses, just like we've talked about over and over in the last few weeks, we focus on the fear and we forget about what God can do. And Moses was in that situation. In his fear, he was focusing on his inabilities more than the God who promised to help him through it. He was focused on, like, yes, but I have this. And God's over here like, yes, but I created you. Like, you know.
And then, like, we're just reading this again, it says Moses' lack of eloquent speech was not a mistake. Like, God made him that way. But at the same point, like, it may have been like Paul. That was his thorn in his side, saying, hey, I need to make sure that I still have something to remind you that you're relying upon me.
Yeah.
You can't just go out on your own, and you're not out there on your own. And I mean, I'll be honest. I mean, I would, again, it comes back to being a little bit nervous. It's natural to do that. Why wouldn't God say, hey, listen, you need to remember who you're coming to. I'm not giving you completely fluency of speech because I need you to rely on me for each and every word.
Yeah.
So, because a lot could have changed had he not been obedient.
Yeah, and so we look at the weaknesses that we possess are not mistakes, like you just said. Like, God did make a mistake by giving Moses a lack of the eloquent speech. Like, that wasn't a mistake. And when we look all throughout Scripture, we see God choose the weak and the unfit to fulfill his plan of redemption. And so we look at, if we jump down and look at Paul's experience in 1 Corinthians, if you want to pull that one up. 1 Corinthians 2, 1 through 5. So in this scripture, we're going to see a different, like, kind of like a flip side of, so Moses was immediately like, no, I have this problem, rejecting. And so now we're going to see a flip side of it with Paul. Again, 1 Corinthians 2, 1 through 5.
And so it was with me, brothers and sisters. When I came to you, I did not come with eloquence or with human wisdom, as I proclaimed to you the testimony of God. For I resolved to know nothing while I was with you except Jesus Christ and him crucified. I came to you in my weakness with great fear and trembling. My message and my preaching were not with wise and persuasive words, but with a demonstration of the Spirit's power, so that your faith might not rest on human wisdom, but on God's power. So immediately, I immediately like looked at that and I was like, I love verse 2. It said, for I resolved to know nothing while I was with you except Jesus Christ and him crucified. Like, there wasn't anything else he was worried about except for the gospel.
Yeah.
Except for knowing that Jesus Christ was crucified and rose again, which was the gospel, the good news, as Pastor Tony says, the way. Like, he was determined to follow the way. That was it.
Yeah.
That was all. That was the only thing he was determined to do while he was there, was just to follow the way.
Yeah.
He wasn't worried about where he was going to eat. Wasn't worried about anything else. He was just determined to follow the Holy Spirit and guidance.
Yeah.
So when he came weak, God could be strong.
Yeah, and it's funny, like, that scripture, we just did a couple Sunday, or I guess it's a couple Sundays ago now. We had a kids team training, and the training that we're starting on is it's based a lot around Moses and like how Moses was brought up like in his first few months of life and all that kind of stuff. And one of the things that we talked about over and over in this first part of it was that if the kids don't know my name, that's absolutely fine. Like, if they never remember a thing that I did, said, looked like, except who Jesus is, that's all that matters. And that was pretty much like what Paul was saying. Like, you can forget anything about me. Like, I'm not concerned about how I sound. I don't want to come to you with an eloquent speech because I want you to focus on Jesus, not me. And that's such a big thing. And that was such a flip to, like, Moses was concerned about the eloquent speech, and Paul took it as a joy. Like, I'm glad that I don't have this because I don't want you to focus on that. I want you to focus on who I am here to talk about. I am here to talk about Jesus.
Yeah.
And so we do see that different response in him, and he proclaims how his lack of eloquent speech demonstrates the power of the Spirit within him. And I went a little further on these two scriptures and researched and found 2 Corinthians 3, 5 through 6. I don't think I put that one in.
I can read it if you want to.
Yeah, we'll pull that one up. So in 2 Corinthians 3, 5 through 6, it actually talks about our insufficiency, sufficiency. So if you want to read that one.
Not that we are confident in ourselves to claim anything for ourselves, but our confidence comes from God. He has made us confident as ministers of a new covenant, not of the letter, but of the Spirit. For the letter kills, but the Spirit gives life.
So in my notes, I pulled from the Fire Bible. If you don't have a Fire Bible, I highly suggest getting that.
Yes.
I pulled from that sufficiency, first of all, the Greek word, and I really don't know how, like, I don't know how to speak Greek. It's like hikanosin, I don't know.
Hikanosin,
But the Greek word for sufficiency means it comes from God, not ourselves. He makes us sufficient. So that word, that Greek word, means qualified, competent, and sufficiently empowered. So when you look at that, it said in the Fire Bible notes, so that the results are pleasing to God. So God not only called Christ followers to spread the message of forgiveness and new life, but he has empowered us to deliver the message effectively. So it's not about our sufficiency, because we're not sufficient on
Right.
our own. We need the Spirit to work through us, because that's where we're getting the empowerment to do the things that God's calling us to do.
Well, and I like that word specifically. And a lot of times I like a lot of what Pastor Tony teaches on Sunday mornings, where it's like the very details of that word. It's not just about having sufficient means to accomplish a task. It's about having God-given specific means to accomplish a task. And that's what that word is referring to exactly, is not just sufficiency, but God-given sufficiency.
Yeah.
And I love how, I mean, I know there's Greek goes so deep on everything. You can't always know all of it, but just the fact, I love those things where the Bible specifically specifies, this is not just a a sufficiency, but it's specifically in this situation, it was a God-given sufficiency that they're referring to.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not just going to have it, and you're not just born with it, but let me specify, I gave this to you. This sufficiency is from God, even if it came to you from the time of your birth.
Yeah.
Sufficiency is from God. So it's good stuff. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, I really liked that, because it was like, wow, they like really tied like all of that in. Like it just confirms how important it is for us to not dwell on our inadequacies, because God intentionally gives us certain inadequacies because he wants to use us and empower us so that he gets the glory out of it.
Yeah.
Like, because again, it's not about me, it's about who I'm directing people to.
Okay, so I was totally just looking back at the note about Paul versus Moses, about how both of them had insufficiencies, but how they looked at it. And I was thinking about our conversation we had a little while ago. You can live 7.5 years longer based off of how you view getting older, or whether you view it as I'm getting seasoned and I know what I'm doing, and you embrace it, or you view yourself as incompetent and getting older, or insufficient, or no longer a part, or no longer able to be a active influence in your life. So if you're in a position, you're getting older, and you feel like you're not as accomplished, or you feel like you're not accomplishing anything, I encourage you to flip it and have positive thoughts, because the new research shows that you can live 7.5 years longer if you feel like you're accomplished, you feel like you're doing something, you're getting things done. And immediately I thought about that, like, Moses was effective and got his things done, but look at how often Paul gets used versus Moses when it comes to being a person that walks by faith and not by sight.
Yeah.
Like, Moses had to be given a cloud and a pillar of fire to follow, where Paul's like, I mean, don't get me wrong, he did have a life-changing blindness at the beginning of his ministry, but it was more than that. Like, Moses had a ton of miracles before he finally was like, okay, fine, God, I'll follow you. Where Paul's like, okay, I just needed one miracle, and now I'm going to follow him and change my life. And then continue to lean on that and talk about his insufficiencies boldly. And I thought about, man, how much more effective you can be in ministry when you embrace your insufficiencies, and when you just say, hey, I recognize that I'm not the best, I'm not the greatest, but God's operating through me.
Yeah.
He used me. I mean, I can operate with God's power, with his hikanosin, God-given sufficiency.
Oh, look at there.
Look at there. I was practicing.
You like-
You hear me? Hikanosin.
I'm over here like,
You had the note pulled up still. So.
what if I sound stupid? I did.
I was using
okay.
my
I tried anyway.
I was using my hikanosin, my God-given sufficiency, to pronounce that word. There you go.
I don't know, Pastor Tony, if he's watching, he's probably going to be like telling us later what we were
How
saying
to actually
wrong,
say it correctly.
'cause
There you go, Pastor Tony. You can tell us Sunday
we're
morning
probably
how to say
both
it correctly.
saying it wrong, but you know.
Listen, you had the little lines and everything around it.
I know I did. It didn't help me. I still sounded stupid, but it's okay.
It's okay.
I got over my inadequacy and I just did it anyway.
You used your hikanosin and you kept on going. Look, there you go. I can't even say it. I sounded like a hick saying it.
So yeah, and I think that in this topic of anxiety with over inadequacy, I think it hits people so much, like I said at the beginning, because so many of us are people pleasers, and we talked about this
last week.
And we even, like, when we were talking about this last night, you know, we're just so concerned about, like, we don't want to upset anybody. We don't want to, you know, do anything that's going to make somebody hurt or whatever, you know, like, even just like I was thinking last night, we were on our way, we were talking and we were literally, sorry, yeah, it's like, it keeps disappearing. Yesterday, so I bought this stuff like a week ago from Bath and Body Works online, and there were supposed to be like 2 candles in it. Came, I think, before I got sick, and then I never got to handle it until yesterday. But like one of the candles was like completely shattered all around the top. It was not like useful at all. Like you couldn't even pull it out of the box.
Not just a candle with the glass
like,
surrounding the
yeah,
candle.
It was
shattered.
like the whole thing. Like if you touched it, like you could feel the whole thing shattered. And so yesterday afternoon, I got on to like the online chat thing with their customer service and was like talking. This lady was so nice. She was like so helpful. And she was like getting me a new one shipped for free. And she's like, don't worry, just throw the other one out. So nice and everything. And I'm like, go to do something on my iPad and like flip over to something else and then go back to like finish up the chat with her or whatever. And I completely like lost it, cut it off, like it was gone. And we were like last night talking and I was like, I don't know why, but this has been bothering me all day. And you were like, what? And I was like, I feel so bad that I left it like that. The lady had been so nice to me. And I literally, like, it looked like I just cut her off. Like, you did what I wanted you to do. I don't care to talk to you anymore. Like, and I was just, like, so concerned about it all day long. Even last night, like, 9 o'clock, I was still concerned about it. And he was like, because you're a people pleaser. Like, welcome to the club, you know? Like, and I was like, I just didn't want this lady. Like, I had no way to contact her and let her know. Like,
but you cared, and you did not want to be.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to cut you off, you know. So, lady that was helping me yesterday, if you happen to hear this podcast or whatever, thank you.
You're loved by God, Mr.
I wasn't trying to cut you off. But that kind of thing, though, like I literally thought about it all day, like, and that's kind of how anxiety bubbles up. You know, like we get concerned that we don't want people to think wrongly of us or think that we intended something that we didn't, you know, and that's when that inadequacy can come in because we're so worried that we're going to look the wrong way, and it's really hard. Yeah, it holds you back because then you're like, I don't want to have a conversation with anybody else because they're going to think that I'm horrible, you know, or whatever. So.
Yep, good.
So for any people pleasers out there you go.
You're not alone.
You're not alone. Got all sorts of inadequacies going on.
All right, so the gospel message being heard and displayed through us should hold greater weight than success or abilities. Just like we said about Paul. He always wanted to make sure that no one didn't care if they knew his name, but they knew God's name. I love that. It gets back. We could do the same thing with Moses because God's like, listen, all I need them to know is that I am that I am. I've always been here, always will be here. Doesn't matter that you know a specific name or a specific way to pray to me. Just know that I am that I am. I'm the God. I don't need anybody to. I don't need anybody to identify. I don't need to. How often in the Bible they're like, I'm the God of Jacob, Isaac, and Jacob, and your fathers, and it's like no, God's just saying, I am that I am. I don't need anybody else to identify with. Yeah. And like, what a lesson for us. Like, we need to know that like He qualifies us. So the only person we should identify with is our Heavenly Father. Like that's it. So
yeah.
It's a little side note there. That was awesome. So the enemy can use thoughts of inadequacy to keep us from following through with God's plans. He does not want the gospel to be heard and believed, so he will try all that he can to keep us from moving forward in confidence. He wants you to think of your weaknesses. He wants you to think about how terrible you are or how bad the things you have done in the past. So when those thoughts come in your mind, know they're not from God. Know that we talked about this the other day actually with the youth of guilt versus shame. Guilt guilt drives action. Guilt says, hey, I've done something wrong. Hey, I've done something maybe I didn't do something I should have done. Like maybe God told you to go speak to somebody. Maybe God told you not to hang up on a tech support person and you did anyway. But God, just joking with you, by the way, hang up on a tech support person.
Yeah, it's okay. I was agreeing.
She didn't do it on purpose. So there's no guilt there. You shouldn't feel guilt.
I felt guilty.
And you shouldn't feel shame like there's something inherently wrong with you. So shame is feeling there's something inherently wrong with you, like you can't fix this, and like there's something that absolutely is wrong with you, that you were born this way. So shame is wrong. Shame is not of God. Guilt is, because guilt says, hey, you did something wrong, or you didn't listen to what God told you to do. You feel bad about it, and that drives action. You go, hey, I want to say I'm sorry. I want to fix it. I want to do whatever needs done correctly. So know that when those thoughts come up, it may be a thought that's driving you to making it right with God. It may be a thought that says, hey, I need to do this. I need to follow through with this. Or if you missed an opportunity to share God's love with somebody, do it. If you've been on the game for a while and making sure you look good before you go and do what God calls you to do, maybe you need to check yourself.
Yeah.
Pastor Jenny looked at me tonight and said, are you going to get a shower before we go online? And I was like, it's all about God, not about me. So I'm just kidding. Sorry, guys. I didn't know. I've been going all day long today. Sorry. You didn't get it. You didn't get my clean face. You got my nice big hat covered.
Well, you were like up and at 'em this morning and outside working. So
here we go.
Sammy said, in defense of Moses, Paul didn't have a couple million people bending his ear with complaints.
It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's true. True.
Yeah, he did have quite a.
Paul traveled alone most of the time for a reason.
Yeah.
Paul was an evangelist. He wanted to go in there and speak to people and get out.
Yeah. Moses was
stuff.
with the
Good
people.
stuff.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, Moses had to live with the people.
So our weaknesses do not have to define or debilitate us. We do not have to view our weaknesses as roadblocks, but rather as the vehicle in which the power of the gospel is displayed. So just like Paul did, he was looking at it as like, you know what, this is a good thing that I have an eloquent speech. It's precisely in our moments of weakness that Christ's strength is most apparent in us. So instead of worrying about our tasks, projects, or to-do lists, we can have confidence knowing that we do not rely on our own strength. Instead of becoming crippled over the fear of failure, we can rest in the power of Christ working within us. And that's like the biggest thing. Like we just have to remember that like it may be hard to like just go, you know what, I'm gonna look stupid, but I'm gonna do it. And
if you're
go
in kids
through
ministry, it's gonna happen. If you're in youth ministry, it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
You're gonna wind up looking stupid or not cool. So
yeah. I feel like if you're breathing at some point, you're gonna.
This is true. This is true.
It's gonna happen.
Yeah.
So we have some questions for this week, and again, like I said a little bit ago, I'll post these along with all the scriptures that we went through tonight. So the questions for this week: what makes you feel unfit and inadequate? How can you see these shortcomings as the means to accomplish God's plan rather than inhibit it? And then even though Moses initially rejected God's calling, God used him to bring about deliverance for Israel and accomplish his covenantal promises. How does knowing Moses' story encourage you in the things God is calling you to? That one for me, like, you know what, like, Moses could still get through even though he couldn't have that eloquent speech that he was so worried about and he just didn't feel like he was the right person. Like, then he accomplished so much still. That makes me feel like, okay, well,
I can still do it too.
I can do this.
Well, and Moses like royally screwed up and disobeyed several times over.
Yeah.
And God called him out on it, but then yet still used him. So like know that when you mess up, like God still can use you and God still wants to use you. Yep.
And then the last question, how can you rest in God's power when fears over your abilities arise? What truths can you speak over yourself in these moments?
I think that goes back to what we talked about last week where we document those times. Because there's a lot of times you're going to like fall short and you go, thank you, God, that you held me up through. I mean, I was thinking like today, like we had so many times like little blessings come in we don't expect. Like so, like we had a couple weeks ago, we had a blessing come in. We had extra like a check given to us, and I don't remember from the church or somewhere else. But it was like one of those times already a rough week, and it was like, all right, we're gonna pick which bills to pay because sometimes and like, or hey, we'll make sure we don't pull from here to do this. And it's like, wow, God, thank you for that blessing. It was your timing is perfect. Well, then yesterday, like we're doing well right now. That we had this is one of those paychecks where everything came out at the right time, everything's looking good, and all of a sudden mailbox money shows up, like a refund from insurance or a refund from a car, and it's like
just random. Yeah.
wow, God, thank you for that. Like this is a great timing from that. I'm like, why was I just as thankful for a time when money wasn't tight as was when money is tight? Like why was I feeling that way? And I was like, well, it's just a matter of attitude to you. Wow, God, thank you. I can have extra money in the pocket to go pay some things down, or well, God, thank you for this. It's all about your matter of how you look at things, and sometimes your perspective determines whether something you're doing is sin or not.
Yeah.
And like how often like our thoughts determine whether or not things are sin, determines whether or not we act, determines whether or not we feel inadequate. Like I was looking back at that first question. Like I was thinking, what makes you feel unfit or inadequate? I was like, you know what? I like to think about other pastors that dress better or have a better haircut or whatever else. We look back and go, why should I feel inadequate? Like God just dropped me into this moment. So I immediately think like, God's called me to this moment. God's called me and given me what I have right now. Why should I look at anybody else and care? Because God's using me in a different way than He's using another person.
Yeah.
God didn't call me to be a TV preacher. God didn't call me to be something else. God called me to be exactly who I am.
Yeah, and that can be so many. Like it can go across the board so much. Like in every area of your life. Like as a parent, as a spouse, as a a child, like
Or employee.
Yeah.
Look at how you view your employment.
Yeah, you can feel inadequate in so many different places, and when all of it builds up, it gets even worse. So that's why we have to focus on God put us in, just like you said, in the position that we're in
for such a
time as this. Like,
and when you get old, you feel like God's put you there for such a time as this. You accomplish things, and you may live 7.5 years longer.
Yeah. Apparently, I need to change
those little
my
things
attitude.
that God just brings up.
Change my attitude about getting older. Thought I was a goner on Thursday night, Friday morning, so it's okay.
So here, God's still using you. Look, see? There you go. God's bringing you wisdom through His Word. Yes. Wasn't even in the study. There you go. Great job, Pastor Jenny. Great job.
All right, so next week we will be moving on to Jehoshaphat.
Love that name.
Jehoshaphat.
You can't.
Like
that sounds like Chihuahua. Name. You can't say it without
having a smile. Jehoshaphat.
There you go. So we'll start next week by saying Jehoshaphat. Jehoshaphat. Jehoshaphat.
So we're going to be talking about Jehoshaphat. Anxious and Prayerful is the title of next week's. And if you want to read ahead, you can go to 2 Chronicles 21 through 34. And that will be our main focus for Jehoshaphat next week. I feel like he's one that you don't really hear a lot about Jehoshaphat. So next week should be interesting. So
look forward to next week.
Yes, we look forward to next week. And we will see you soon. Thanks for joining us.
Good night, everyone.